There's a reason why we're both wearing black. Wasn't planned, but we're both in mourning for our original jobs. Everybody wants that work from home job, right? Like, oh, I want to work from home remote. Like, this is super,
Mhm.
super cool, super chill.
Yeah, like the
And
holy grail, right? Wanna work remote, right.
yeah, I'm sure there's people watching right now like, dude, you're an idiot. Like, why are you complaining that you are having to be at home 4 days a week?
In finding jobs, for me, really the top priority was, work-life balance.
I didn't think I was gonna hate it as much as I did. I'm just a people person, man.
But yeah, the fact that it was, obviously different from what I was kinda initially told. For me, work is work a lot of the time.
Yeah, I totally respect you and your belief and say work is work. I would have to respectfully disagree. Um,
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Navy Nuke Network podcast. I'm Justin Woodall, and today we're diving into something a little bit more personal.
And I'm Caleb Stewart. Both of us recently left our first civilian jobs after getting out of the Navy, and we thought it was important to talk about it.
There's this unspoken pressure that once you land that first job, you should just write it out, even if it doesn't fit. But the truth is, we're not under contract anymore. We've got options.
And sometimes the best thing you can do is move on. Even if you're learning and improving, it might not be the right place to grow long term.
So in this episode, we're sharing what went wrong, why we both decided to leave, and what we've learned about chasing the right fit over just chasing a paycheck.
If you're struggling in your first role out of the military or thinking about making a change, this episode's for you. Hey, how you guys doing? My name is Caleb Stewart, and I'm here with Justin Woodall. Welcome to the 8th episode of the Navy Nuke Network podcast. And we're here to talk about a topic that honestly, Justin, 3 months ago, we did not think that we would be talking about this soon in the channel. Just like you guys saw in that intro, Justin and myself have transitioned to our second jobs out of the military, right? Both for separate reasons. And we'll obviously get into depth and detail about the reasons why, we'll get into those decisions, kind of what we did to kind of plan our transition route, and then generally talk about the jobs that we found and why we feel like those fits were the best for us individually. So
there's a reason why we're both wearing black. Wasn't planned, but we're both in mourning for our original jobs.
yeah,
Definitely
morning.
wasn't
But
planned.
again, right, it's not that big of a deal, right? Now, obviously, I'm sure there's people watching here who are maybe in similar positions or have been in similar positions, right? This is not a sad time or a sad moment or disappointing at all, right? We're lucky and privileged enough to have found places that we think hopefully fit, right? And we'll talk about that process and, talk about maybe some thoughts and the mentality that went into those decisions as well. So just to get going with you, Justin, generally talk about like the job that you did find initially, right, when you first got out, and maybe some of the things and indicators that you saw as a part of that job that made you think it might not be a long-term fit.
Sure. Yeah. So for those of you that go back to our very first episode, I think we talked about how we got our jobs. I got a job as a service project manager at an energy reliability company here in Raleigh that covers all. I mean, it's a global company, but I was in charge of all of North America, Canada, United States, Mexico, and I was very fortunate in the fact that that company was willing to hire me straight. Actually, I got hired onto that company while I was still in the military, while I was still doing my skill bridge. And it seemed to hit a lot of things that I wanted. It was in the energy sector. It gave me some project management experience because I did project management boot camps and was doing project management through my skill bridge and through Onward to Opportunity. So I already got a little bit of a background with that and wanted to combine my energy background with my project management. The role was a hybrid role, and how it currently is there, we've moved to 2 days a week being in the office, but when I got hired on, the first 5 months, it was just 1 day a week in the office. The other 4 days of the week I was in here. I was in my office here, sitting on my butt. For those of you that are Navy Nukes watching, I mean, from our backgrounds, just being up and about and on our feet and just being in the plant and watching and learning from other people, I just was not getting that here in this. So that was the first kind of red flag for me. And I was like, well, maybe it's just I'm trying to get used to what life is like as a civilian. Everybody wants that work from home job, right? Oh, I want to work from home remote. This is super, super cool, super chill.
Yeah, it's like the holy grail, right? Want to work remote, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there's people watching right now dude, you're an idiot. Why are you complaining that you were having to be at home 4 days a week? I didn't think I was going to hate it as much as I did. I'm just a people person, man. I love talking to people. I love interacting with people. And in this role, it's very individualized. You're still part of a team. Like I was part of the service team, but I had to contribute my individual portion, my job solely that would end up fitting into our team as far as what they needed to get done, right? So it really wasn't like collaborative. You didn't work on a team together. It's not like you like when you're doing maintenance on a submarine, like you and like 3 or 4 other dudes are like all on one machine trying to figure it out, troubleshoot it, working together. It's just not like that, right?
Yeah. You were like the guy, cleaning the motor generator. You're just the guy just wiping the carbon, right? You're just the carbon guy, right? You weren't doing any measurements. You weren't you know, doing the tags. You were just okay, I'm just there just to clean the machine.
Yeah, I was just there to clean the machine. And then when I was done, I was supposed to report back, you know?
By yourself in your house.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And another one of the things that I found that I thought I was gonna like when I first got on, didn't really like after, is the travel. Which this job doesn't require a lot of travel, but I was at headquarters in Raleigh, North Carolina, and unless I left North Carolina to go to one of these sites, across wherever, I couldn't see the stuff that I was looking at, like on paper or like on a screen. I was just looking at engineering drawings, looking at schematic diagrams, putting together maintenance plans and stuff for stuff that I couldn't even put my hands on. Like I can't just be like, I'm just gonna walk, stand up and go look at it. I can't, right? Corporate travel is a whole beast in itself. Like having to plan 2 months ahead of time, using company funds and company cards and booking flights. And when you actually do travel, I mean, you're traveling alone. You're not going with anybody. Like you go out there and you're there for like a week or two at a time. I mean, I'm sure there's people right now watching that do that and they love it. Like they love going travel to. It's just, again, it wasn't for me. I'm not getting that like interaction with people that I really thrive in and like bring value to my life and my job. So that's kind of the reasons why I started looking into something else. Yeah, that's how I ended up going, and I ended up, putting some feelers out there and trying to figure out what I want to do next. But you kind of had not necessarily similar because you weren't in the role as long as I was, but you had kind of red flags that showed up as soon as you started, right? So you can kind of break that down for us.
No, definitely. Yeah, and it's right, lessons learned, right? This is all lessons learned. None of us are holding anything against obviously the companies that we came from, the people that we worked with, right? This is all our own personal experiences, right? First time doing it, first time transitioning, working out of the Navy and to these particular fields. So my particular position was a data center commissioning role, and a lot of it was I had fault in it, obviously, when it comes to possibly being in a position that didn't fit. So the role was a field service role, to the extent to where there was an expectation for the general, right, standard job description for the particular role to have, a decent amount of travel, right, up to 75% actually was like what was in the job description. But right in the hiring process for a particular company in the position that I was in, they had a lot of work locally in the area that I'm currently living, like a whole lot of work. And that was kind of harped really to me and really, told me by multiple people throughout the whole hiring process, that, you'll be here locally. We had like all this work here. So like that traveling portion of it won't be required, especially initially, right? Possibly a couple years down the road that could open up, right? But it was like really like, hammered in like, okay, yeah, travel is really not going to be a thing for you to start off with, but, possibly could expect it down the road. So once I heard that and, based on the description of what the job would entail and obviously, local, being close to family, things of that nature, something that was important to me and something that I valued, 100%, willing to accept the position. But also this is where I kind of, place some blame and fault on me is the black and white of the job description, right, that I signed on to approve for still had that, okay, open to travel, right, up to 75% of the time, yeah. Even though possibly verbally, right, I was told separately. And it wasn't like a thing where the company tried to like, pull the rug out from underneath of me. Shortly after I got hired, like literally like a week after, right, kind of going through orientation, some of the dynamics in the specific planning for what was going on with the company changed, right? They, had some things and some operations that were occurring that shifted, right, as far as scheduling, right? Some things shifted around to where they wanted people who were newly hired to the team to travel, right, to get more experience, right, because there weren't going to be as much like experience and work to do here locally, which 100% right. Again, it wasn't something that was like nefarious that the company did, where it was like, oh, okay, we're going to tell, this new hire something, and then once they sign on, change it, right? It was just, something outside of their
And so you're
control.
saying they kind of pivoted and it ended up opening up a direction where the travel was going to be more directly related to the people in your particular type of position. That's what you're saying.
Exactly, right. And mainly for training. And I get it too, right? They wanted to get the people actually to places where they could learn as much as possible initially.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, hands-on learning, I mean, is obviously good and needed in a role like that, obviously. So I kind of see where they're
exactly.
going with it, but
Extremely
still,
valuable. But yeah, the fact that it was, obviously different from what I was kind of initially told, and the fact that I kind of, saw and witnessed the fact that a dynamic like that could change so quickly without really any obviously like, control or decision making of my own, kind of unsettled kind of, me and the family when it comes to what we really wanted to, right? Again, you talk, people who watched our earlier podcast when we first talked about transitioning and finding jobs. For me, really the top priority was, work-life balance and finding a job that really fit what our family wanted as far as a schedule. Things like shift work is something that I don't really want to do, or things with heavy travel was something I didn't really want to do. And so once
yeah, for you and me, a lot of people are family people, but you and I are really like truly connected with our family. And I have 5 kids, you have 2 kids. Like we really want to be there. And not to say that other people don't want to be there. Definitely not saying that. But like there was a reason why I left the Navy, and that big reason was I wanted to be able to have more quality time with my family, my kids, my wife. And for both of us, when we went into it, it was like, we're not in for it, for this whole travel thing. This travel, more than 50% of the time is just not in the cards for us. So we had to, strategize around it. And in your case, it just, the communications were a little bit off, and your expectations were different than what was delivered. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that
exactly. And
fair?
again, like, it's no hard feelings. Like, the company was really, and the specific management that was immediately above me was very understanding, obviously, where they understood what was told and understand how that was changed and differed from what was told to me. And it was no hard feelings both ways. And yeah, so for me, in my particular situation, I'm lucky enough to have a wife that's working and it's doing pretty well as far as her work coming up to summer for the boys. So for me personally, the best decision for us was for me to just, leave at that point, right? I didn't kind of stick with the job to find something else. I decided to just kind of cut ties, literally, a couple weeks being there, kind of, stay at home dad. I am still, doing school, but like, picked up more classes, utilizing the not post 9/11 GI Bill, and kind of just stay with the boys through the summer while looking for other opportunities. So yeah, and that's kind of where I started to look for other things.
I'm glad that it was no hard feelings from the company, like a kind of a agreement, understanding there, like what was going on, and it wasn't like, a bad thing for you. I too, when I brought this up, like to my boss, dude, my boss was so cool. I'm not gonna like name him and whatever right now, but like if any of y'all got a chance to work for that guy, like he's a really good dude. He was just like really, he was more worried about me as a human being and a person and getting the value that I need in my life, right? Even though like I couldn't have said that I want to move to something else at a worse time uh, for him, because when I got hired like in December, and which was already, in the holiday season, I didn't get a chance to like really have a lot of people there because they were on vacation, obviously. But I was just kind of not necessarily going through the motions, but I didn't have like the mentorship of people that have done it already and like teaching me because they were on vacation, right? And then when we got back from vacation and everything started getting back into the swing of things, 2 of the 3 senior project managers on our like 10-person team decided to leave.
Oh
Like they
wow.
had progressed in their careers, went somewhere else. Like they've been there, 6, 7, 8 years. I think one of them was like 10 years. He's been there. So they left, and then I'm there, only been there like 3 months, 4 months, and they were the ones I was learning from. You know,
Yeah.
so he was really feeling it. He could have gotten really upset and angry or whatever, but he's just not that type of guy. He rolled with the punches, did what he had to do, and even facing that, like he hadn't found anybody to fill their shoes yet, and here I am coming to say, hey, like I'm not able to utilize what brings joy in a job for me. And he was totally supportive, man. He helped me look for like a job within the company. I actually got an offer within the company to move somewhere else, but I just ended up going with something different. And he was really supportive. And I'm very grateful for that, dude. No bridges burned with you, no bridges burned with me. So I'm glad that we both encountered that type of exit from the company.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it makes you like feel better about it, right? And I think that's definitely something good to take away, right? Because obviously people who work there, right, you could work with them in the future, and those relationships are still important to maintain and still keep on the up and up. Like, you obviously talked about looking for a different opportunity while you were there. With the change in, I guess, perspective as far as what you were looking for, right? Not one necessarily something that had so much work from home. How did that kind of frame the opportunities that you were searching after?
sure. So for me, trying to figure out really, I mean, we all are trying to figure out what we want to do when we grow up. We all are. But trying to find a job that fits a Navy nuke, that doesn't have to travel, right? And it's not shift work, can be a little daunting. Since starting the Navy Nuke Network, I mean, I've had plenty of our audience members, plenty of our people within our connected members, like on LinkedIn, or just people that are subscribers to our channel. They've reached out to me, been very supportive. We've talked to a lot of people that we're trying to get like on podcasts and stuff that have like subject matter expert, have experiences in industries that we haven't been in, right? And through talking with a few of those people, I was able to talk to and get some experience from like the pharmaceutical manufacturing portion of the Raleigh area, which is where I'm at, right? And in the Raleigh Triangle area, there's a lot of manufacturing, like tech manufacturing. But then there's also pharmaceutical manufacturing, which is even bigger because we're really close to like UNC, like UNC, like Hospital Duke. There's a big hospital network here. So by talking to them and getting their experiences and seeing like what they're doing, I was leaning towards that. And I was like, well, that seems like something I might want to do because it's still, engineering. I mean, there's definitely shifts in a manufacturing facility, manufacturing plant, right? But when you're looking at roles like that we might fit that are outside of that shift work, is like more of like managerial or supervisor positions or like engineering positions, this daytime stuff. And especially if you have that degree, like we talked about like in an earlier episode, like go get that check in the box, get that degree, because it's going to open up jobs like this that they're not going to bat an eye at, say, oh, well, you have a degree, that's fine, you can get an engineer role, opposed to like, well, you don't have the degree, we can only get you at like a lead shift role here, like, you're having to work shifts. It could make a difference. I started applying to all the pharmaceutical manufacturers in the area, and somebody reached out to me from one of those applications I put in. Really cool recruiter, been at this company for 10 years, hired a bunch of nukes. There's at the plant that I'm going to, it's a pharmaceutical manufacturing plant that does plasma. Like they take donated plasma from people that donate plasma, and they separate it into different, I guess, like proteins, just strands that they can then bottle and distribute for people that have like blood deficiencies or like need that like particular part of plasma to help them, whatever. So that's what they do, like in big bird's eye view. That recruiter had been there and has hired a bunch of Navy nukes. And when I went to interview there, which that whole interview process was kind of crazy, to be honest. Maybe we can talk in another episode about how that went. But I met like 4 or 5 nukes the first day I was there, trying to just get interviewed and walk around, So
Wow.
no, it was pretty cool. So that's how that whole process went for me, trying to figure out what I was going to do while also working at the company I was at. I had just been applying at through the nighttime, trying to figure out like where these opportunities are. That was keeping me away from the Navy Nuke Network stuff, which is why the last month or so you haven't seen like me physically recording on the channel. Caleb's been kind of the star of the show this last month, but I just didn't have the time, man. I was trying to work my job and find another job, and I got like stuff going on in the house, like renovations and stuff. It was a big deal, but it is what it is. That's how I try to manage that. How was it for you? Like, was it kind of like on the back burner, or were you actively applying like every single day, or you just kind of going with the flow? Like, what was it your experience?
I think for me, again, like I said, I'm blessed to have a wife who's, working a job that was, financially, that wasn't necessarily a huge issue for us. Kind of had opportunity to kind of sit and really take a breath. Like I talked about being at home with the boys with the summer starting. And I really wanted to sit down and really find something we talked about really fit, right? Obviously, for me to, and for us as a family to make that decision to like literally, leave such a, it's pretty, financially lucrative position, right? And that again, where I could have stuck with it and left whenever I found something else. But for us to be so as convicted based on our kind of family desires and values, I guess you could say. Obviously, finances and, financial pay and salary is just not as important as maybe we thought it was on our list, if that makes any sense, right? For us to make that decision, you would have to say like other things we just value obviously that much more. So I really kind of sat and thought about all the different, outside of technical jobs, all the different fields that I could find a fit when it comes to schedule, time, getting some sort of self-worth. Like teaching is something I, looked into and, something I might get into in the future. Substitute teaching, possibly getting a teaching license was something that I, did some research and looked into. But also, applying to jobs that, a little bit more traditional as far as nukes go, electrical engineering positions. Got some traction with some jobs, interviews, things of that nature. And I did eventually settling with an engineer position at a particular company that does consulting work, right? So government kind of contract consulting, specifically with the Coast Guard here locally. The biggest thing that allured me with the position is it is a hybrid schedule, right? That is local. Be going down to the site couple of days a week and, staying home a couple of days a week. So, and then, obviously not traveling at all. So lucky enough to find something still that fit, that worked with what our family wanted. Also, really doing some deep diving, and it feels a lot better kind of having that clean slate, understanding like, okay, this is our values. This is what we want to find when it comes to, our family work-life structure. So yeah, I'm excited, starting, I'm in the orientation process this week. So, not necessarily very dramatic, right? Pretty straightforward. Luckily, right? I'm sure there's people, who are watching who have stories, who either maybe chose to leave their job or maybe unfortunately didn't choose to leave, things of that nature, who has a lot more turbulence when it comes to finding that second, that third job. But, luckily for us, found something that seems to hopefully fit and, go through that process and see how it goes.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited for you. Did you actually, what's, I didn't say mine either, but what's your job title?
Electrical engineer is the job title. It's funny because Kayla asked me, he's like, oh yeah, so you're an engineer, but nukes, we understand like what like an engineer is, and then like what being in like engineering. To be an engineer, you technically have to be a licensed engineer, designing
Yeah, your PE license
components.
and stuff, yeah.
Exactly, like building things. So I don't do that. It's more like quality control, like engineering, making sure like essentially that some particular systems are working properly and things fit certain areas, things of that nature. Obviously, not going to go too much depth.
Yeah. And
But yeah,
the allure to them about you is that you had shipboard experience and can bring that like real
yes,
world
yeah,
experience of having to live and work on a ship to them building a ship. Because I know I know you've probably had this conversation with folks that you've served with. I know I definitely have. Like you like, look on a submarine, you're looking around, it's like whoever designed this definitely had never been on a submarine before.
no,
You know?
yeah, no, 100%. And like that, no, you were like spot on. Like that, they talked about some of the, not in specifics, but interviewing some people prior to me and them just like not, going forward with those people because they were just maybe like graduates out of high school, college, like college graduates who just got maybe their engineering degree, things of that nature, but like not having that shipboard experience, not, being underway, not like understanding just space, like what like, efficient space looks like. So it's definitely something they valued. Having my TS clearance already is something that they valued as well. So yeah, like I said, excited about the opportunity. Hopeful that it'll work out.
I talked about the company I'm working for, but I didn't say what my job was. So I guess I should probably
Yeah, go ahead.
I should probably say that because people be like, "So what are you even doing at this company?"
Right.
I too have engineer in my job title. I'm gonna be an energy engineer. That's what
There
mine's
you go.
called. Yeah, energy
Energy
engineer.
engineer. He's like a hype. It's like a hype man. It's like a hype man. Like a rapper's hype man is an energy engineer. You're a hype
There you
man.
go. I can do that. Yeah. So energy engineer is my role. Again, just like you were saying, like I don't have a PE license or anything, but even the company I work for, they also like really value like military experience too. So much so it's like, hey, you got all this military experience and you have a degree on my offer letter. It says senior energy engineer.
Ooh, there
I
you
got the
go.
senior on there.
There you go. Yeah.
But in a nutshell, what this job responsibility is going to cover, basically evaluating and understanding all the manufacturing plant and its energy usage and how it could be more efficient or implement new protocols or systems to bring energy usage down. It also works heavily congruent with wastewater management because this particular process they do to manufacture what they make requires a lot of wastewater. Like you just go through a whole bunch of it and trying to figure out what to do with that wastewater because you can't just give it back to the town that you're at in like the sewage system because they can only take so much. And if you're like generating like way more than they can take, they can't take it, right? So you got to figure out what to do with the wastewater, whether it's like recycling it or doing like more wastewater treatment, using less water in general. So wastewater management and energy consumption and management, that's kind of my role is to identify how those can be improved. So that's what my role is. I'm sorry I cut you off there, but
No, you're
when I
fine.
went to ask you and I was like, oh, I didn't say what my job's
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be.
yeah. That's good.
But
Good
yeah,
context. Like I kind of mentioned, I feel like, at least for me, what I feel like my biggest lesson learned in that process, as far as deciding to leave the position that I was at and to look for something else, was the fact that I accepted a position somewhere. You know, obviously, it was verbally like given some expectations, but the position turned out to be identical to what was the job description, if that makes any sense, right? Like crazy, right? The job ended up being what exactly I signed up for, even though it was, based on this situation, told something else. So it sounds like a silly lesson to learn, right? We're in the military, right? You go in the Navy, you're given all this paperwork, and the expectation is that we train and tell people is like expect, like, with this, like in black and white, right? Read your contract, right? Hold the people accountable to what's written. And I, didn't necessarily do that in the sense that like I didn't expect the job to be what was written in black and white. So the biggest lesson learned for me is even if something, whether it be in a job or a position or maybe a project on the job, if something is told to me and I'm given a certain expectation, right, make sure that I have the backing of that information and that guidance, in writing, right? To put it plainly. So yeah, it's the biggest thing I took away from it. What about your particular situation? If there's any lessons learned?
yeah, I would say for me, biggest lesson learned is that it's okay that your first job out of the military isn't hitting all the things you need, right? We come from an environment where you are forced to suck it up, fight through it, and grind because you have to. You're under contract. Like you've signed a contract, you're in the military, you have to do it because they said so, right? You don't have an option. But it's hard to get out of that mindset when you're going into the civilian world because you literally don't have that contract. You don't have to stay anywhere, especially if it's not like one making you happy, two stressing you out, and three it's just not bringing any value to your life. So for me, I got hung up on that, thinking that I just need to fight through it and just get through it because I'm so people forward, people focused. I was really worried about like letting the people down that brought me on, that hired me, or that I was working with, because I didn't want to burden them by me saying I, can't take it or I quit or whatever. But it's just totally different because it's an option. You always have the option to leave in the civilian world, so it's there. It is okay, especially if you can talk up front with like your boss, like we said, like I said, talking to my boss, just be honest and open, and hopefully you can be cordial and understand each other. Maybe they can even help you find another one. Who knows? But it just you gotta try to figure out what's going to align with who you are and try to pursue something that's going to align with that, and also, as closely match your financial needs as possible that you can find. So that's kind
Yeah.
of like what I pulled from it.
No, I agree. And I think it's also a good point. I didn't speak to it specifically, but in my experience, kind of like how you said, where you spoke to your direct supervisor regarding what was going on with you, and they did their best to kind of even open up avenues in that particular job to try to fit and find something for you that worked out. Similar experience. When I brought it up initially, kind of what was going on. Again, my direct supervisor similarly, right, tried to open up avenues and find as much as he could something that would fit what our family needed. Ended up still not being able to do that. The lesson learned behind that is if you find that something is like off and not fitting with what you desire or needed when you first signed on, like say something maybe before, like, okay, I'm putting in my 2-week notice, speak up, right? Talk to your boss, communicate. Maybe they can find somewhere in the company or can change some sort of structure within their power about your particular position that can make it fit even more. Again, if it just doesn't fit right, don't be afraid to find something else. You have that opportunity and that ability. So, yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Definitely. For you, how do you look at like the civilian versus military work scenario, like the work culture, as far as working from home or being there every day or shift work? Like, what do you think, in your opinion, is your go-to or the things that you value from that type of work?
Yeah, so that's interesting. Similarly to you, I like communicating with people, talking to people. I do get energy and enjoyment from talking from people, but I also can work in an isolated situation and still work fine. I think for me, working in an environment where I feel like I know what I'm doing, right? I feel like confident in the work and the job, and like I understand like the steps and stages of what's going on. So I think like clarity, understanding, confidence, and that can obviously, like, whether it be like in remote work, in working in person, as long as I feel like that with my day to day, the I guess physical location of wherever I am, like I'm fine, right? And that's just, again, my obviously I've only worked a couple weeks at the first place. I've only worked a week here, so that's not like backed with a bunch of experience as far as my own. Every single day that I've worked outside of the military has been here at home. So, it's been, a month of remote work for me. Yeah, I feel fine.
So you think you can get those things out of a remote job and it's possible, or even, I mean, you're doing a hybrid role, which what you're about to go
Yeah,
into is a hybrid role. And my
right.
job is actually technically a hybrid role too. Like I can do 2 days a week from home if I wanted, but you feel that a hybrid or a remote work could hit those wickets that you're talking about.
Yeah, for me, that's my current perspective and my currently what I believe. And maybe that'll change. But for me, there's other avenues in life that can provide maybe some of those, like you mentioned, talking to people or communicating, if that's something that you highly value. And again, obviously, it's me speaking for me, not speaking for you. I can find some of those connections elsewhere if that's something that I feel like I'm missing out of work. Like I feel like this podcast, for me, it's something like an outlet. I think I maybe talked about in our first episode, right? Going to like broadcasting work or broadcasting job is something that in the past that I've thought about doing seriously. This podcast kind of feeds that, right? Kind of being creative and finding, if I feel like, for me, work is work a lot of the times, right? Obviously, I want it to fit what my family wants and needs, but when it comes to the actual day to day of whatever I'm doing within that structure, it doesn't necessarily matter too much. That's just, again, my personal belief.
Yeah, and I totally respect you and your belief and say work is work. I would have to respectfully disagree.
Yeah.
uh, I just take what I do so like not personal. I don't think they'll say take it personal, but I just invest myself so much into the team that I'm with that
Mhm.
it becomes kind of a part of me. Even though you're supposed to like separate, work from home and all that. I mean, I do get that, and I totally 100% think you should do work when you're at work, home when you're home. Don't split the two. But because I'm just such a people person, I'm just such team oriented. Like I grew up playing sports before even going in the Navy, and I like that team camaraderie type thing is just like really strong with me. And then we got in the Navy, and then the best relationships I've ever had have been in the Navy. I met you in the Navy, man. Like you're like my best bro, right? So even like for the people that I worked with at the company that I just left, like I feel like a real connection with those people, and it means a lot to me because the interactions with people that I'm working with just it impacts me, and hopefully I can impact them. I just think it just matters so much, and for it to overlap with what you're doing, like if you can find purpose and know like the why, and you're all together about like what the why it is you're doing, and like have a purpose behind what you're doing and doing it together, like I can think that like just totally change your whole outlook on work, and like kind of not necessarily where the work doesn't drain you, it kind of energizes you a bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that makes a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of sense.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a a, a great thing, and especially when you can find that overlap, that job, that position that's providing, whether it be financially, or you're providing the schedule, the things that your family needs, but also fulfilling yourself internally and individually.
Yeah, and
I
of
think,
course you do have that. You do have that. Like, I mean, it'd be all like rainbows and sunshine if you could just
right,
get all what I just said. But if you're not getting paid for it, then it's kind of
exactly.
different, you know. So
Yeah,
you
and I
do have
guess for
to
me,
have that balance.
yeah, I think for me, I get that from, like I say, like confidence in knowing what I'm doing. Like if I'm at work and I'm being productive, then like I feel good about it, right? I feel good about work. I go home, feel like, you know, I earned my paycheck and I did something that day. And not necessarily have to be people, or not to say I don't like. I feel like I'm starting to sound like a hermit. Like people who know me, people who
Like,
know me
just give me a
personally.
room and no
Yeah,
light and a computer, and I'll be
right.
fine.
People who know me know I value relationships. I am a people person, and talking to people, communicating to people, something I love to do. Right, I love it. Right, it's just for me, that doesn't have to be a part of my 9 to 5, if you will. Right, it can be a part of my 9 to 5, but then it can also be outside of that. So I don't want to belay and labor the point anymore. But that's a
No,
really
yeah,
good
and
question.
yeah, I appreciate it. And I think that one of the funny things that I did figure out about working from home that I didn't like the most, that kind of relates to what we're talking about, is bro, my butt hurts. Sitting on my butt all day, it hurts. Like, I got a desk that goes up and down to
Yeah.
try to mitigate me having to stand up or sit down so much. But man, like even right now, y'all see me like moving around. Like, I got back problems, but then
Oh
with your
God.
tailbone hurting because you're sitting on it so all the time, it's freaking crazy, man. I
Yeah.
hate it. I hate it.
I
I
could see
hate it.
that.
So
Yeah, I'd hate the chair every day if that. Yeah, if I was feeling that pain.
yeah, yeah. Well, anyways, we're gonna wrap up this podcast. Last things we want to make sure that you get out of this is that you understand that you are not stuck, right? You are not stuck in your current role, even though you think you might be. There are options out there, and hopefully, me and Caleb, with the work that we're doing with the Navy Nuke Network, can reach you, can reach employers. We can make connections so that you can feel more comfortable and not feel like you're stuck in a position that might be, like we said earlier, kind of draining your internal battery. Right? If it's draining you and you're not getting what you need for your family, for yourself, it might be an option, and it's okay. Like, it's all right, right? And hopefully we can provide something like for you.
Yeah, if it doesn't fit, don't force it. Right, just find something else that is more fulfilling, or better for your family, or whatever your priorities are. Right, know what they are, and stick to them. Right, it's the best advice I can give.
That's right. All right. Subscribe, follow, reach out to us if you have any questions, and we'll see you in the next video.
See ya.